As Georgia goes, so goes the Republican Party. I'm Cupp. This is Unfiltered. Georgia has been the epicenter of some pretty big news stories in American politics over the last few years. None of them very good for former President Donald Trump. First, in 2020, he lost Georgia to President Joe Biden. It was the first time Georgia voted for a Democrat since 1992. Then, in January of 2021, Trump tried unsuccessfully to get the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, a Republican and top election official in Georgia, to overturn the election results in that state, saying, "So look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have." Raffensperger refused. Later in 2022, Trump endorsed Raffensperger's primary opponent, but he'd go on to win both the primary and the general election handily, despite Trump's efforts. Trump also tried to pressure Georgia Governor Brian Kemp to intervene in the 2020 election. Kemp refused, and Trump promised revenge. Trump then recruited Senator David Perdue to primary Kemp in 2022, and Kemp beat Perdue by more than 50 points. Kemp went on to beat Democrat Stacey Abrams in the general. And finally, as we all know, Trump surrendered in Fulton County, Georgia this week on charges related to overturning the 2020 election. It's here in Georgia where many believe Trump faces the greatest legal jeopardy. Ironically, as Trump prepared for his arrest in Georgia, 8 Republican candidates polling way below him took to the Fox News debate stage in Milwaukee on Wednesday. Believe it or not, the 4th indictment of a former president and the current GOP frontrunner didn't come up until nearly an hour into the debate, and when it did, few seized on the moment. All but 2 raised their hands to say they would support Trump as the nominee even if he's convicted. Vivek Ramaswamy cartoonishly declared Trump the best president of the 21st century and vowed to issue a pardon on day one if he makes it to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who also refused to help Trump overturn the election and faced death threats because of it, questioned whether Trump would be convicted and said he wished that had been left to voters. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott railed against the weaponization of the Justice Department. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said it's time to move past January 6th. Now, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley both took Trump on, with Christie condemning the president's disregard for the Constitution and Haley insisting that Trump is the most disliked politician in America and we can't win a general election that way. But one of the strongest voices against Donald Trump's baseless election lies has come from someone who isn't running against him, Republican Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. When Trump rushed to Truth Social to protest his innocence after the Georgia indictment, Kemp took to Twitter to state plainly what many running against Trump won't say. The 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen, he wrote on Twitter. For nearly 3 years now, anyone with evidence of fraud has failed to come forward under oath and prove anything in a court of law. Our elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair, and will continue to be as long as I am governor. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? Even before that, in July, Kemp was on CNN warning Trump to move on from the election lies, saying, "I think if he continues to do that, he's going to lose Georgia in November." And just before the debate, Kemp preemptively declared Trump the loser, saying, "I think the Trump campaign is making a big mistake by not being here. They are my loser of the night." He continued, "I just think, if you're as good as you say you are, get your ass on there, answer the questions, fight it out, and let's get it done." Governor Kemp has somehow found the courage to criticize a guy wholly deserving of criticism and still get reelected. I know that's not the case for most Republicans, but if more would try it instead of cowering and kowtowing to Trump supporters, maybe it wouldn't feel so extraordinary. Will Georgia prove to be Trump's Waterloo? I think we're about to find out. That's it for me. See you next week.